I think I finally learned how to nail the timing for that. Oh wait, I can't. Am I? Yeah. I can hear myself. Can I hear myself in this scene? Sween stitch. Scene switch. I'm only gonna be on Obsidian today. Another question: is this viewable? Is this seeable? Do I need to increase the font size? Um, tab indent size, appearance 16. What if I just yank this up to 30? What does this look like? Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. So it's been a minute since I streamed. I felt the urge, the compulsion a few days ago to go live, and I am now following up on said compulsion. I've been a little sick since holiday season. I've had a number of life changes and such, but I've really kind of nailed a publishing process that I'm really proud of. What you'll see here is that this whole list to the left of my face, and let me move my face a little bit here, maybe to the bottom. These are all links that exist on the web for public Zettels. And basically what a public Zettel is it's a way to, um, I've been kind of describing them in public as like kind of like tweets, because they kind of fulfill a similar purpose where they're very packaged, right? Like the content and the wrapping all come in the same kind of cover to cover. I guess a book is kind of the same thing. A video is kind of the same thing. It's basically just a very short way to deliver information. But it's insanely creative. It's insanely flexible. I've been having a ton of fun with just making different uh, notes and kind of like leveraging pictures and humor, um, references from other things in my life that I find important, and then kind of like linking them all together with like these tags, for example. So when I go back to, oh, I'm in caps lock. When I go back to the homepage, and then I can click on writing or anime or something like that, these all actually get put onto my website, which is linked in the description, the bramadams.dev, under the Zettelkasten. These are all published directly there. So I've actually been having a lot of fun with the process of like making these. And a lot of these are kind of like public knowledge a little bit. I have some that are in my private folder that are like kind of like dealing with just myself and my life. But since these books are published, and I read a lot of books, I read a lot of articles, I read a lot of tweets, being able to recompose them and give them a new life given your understanding of things, I find to be very gratifying and enjoyable. And I'm turning on some music because I need some tunes right now. Yeah. And it's just really easy and fun. Like it really does feel like um you're doing work. Like you can see the graph kind of like build itself over time. Um, and you can kind of like start to feel the connections of your thoughts starting to link together. And it's cool because like this is all the stuff that I've already pulled into like links and have done the manual work to turn these into Zettelkasten. But there's so much more that I need to do. I really haven't even grasped the surface of kind of like what I need to do, right? Let me see if orphans, yeah, orphans are showing up here. So all of these in my two process need eventually to be pulled into this Zettel, right? So it's almost like a dual star. So we have this star here of notes that are like books and tweets and stuff like that that I've read that I think are interesting. And some of them make it, others of them don't, because I decide some of them are important and others of them should just kind of like stay out of the kind of like overall narrative. But it's just so much fun. I'm just having a really, really good time. I wonder if I can control. No, I can't. Whatever. So a lot of this was, you know, done because I just recently released BHOV, which is also in the comments below or in the profile below. And it's basically a template that can jump off of. And let me pull it up real quick so I can just show you both of these things. Um, okay, let me go to Chrome. That's not what I want. Yo, hold up. Hold. Um, properties. Chrome window. Chrome. So what you're seeing in front of you here is this highly opinionated vault that I published at the uh in the middle of like last month. And basically what this is a 10,000 word essay and working vault on how to use the kind of methodologies that I've adopted over the past couple years in the PKM space. And you know, when I published this on Hacker News, someone commented, let's see here, like I think I put it in here, micro publishing. This is also what I was talking about. So this is actually published on the internet. It feels a lot like what Tumblr used to feel like, where it's like it doesn't really serve a purpose other than just to build this really interesting kind of like creative um hand paint kind of on the cave thing. I think a lot of the problem with the modern day web is that it really kind of got co-opted by everything needing to prove a business value, and it kind of took away a lot of the fun of just kind of like making interesting stuff that people want to see or not want to see, right? um okay, let me see if I can find progressive summarization. Yeah, so actually this is like what I was just saying. Going through progressive summarization has felt like rote yet satisfying work. It requires time, a little bit of creative juice, and a lot of quote unquote hard work, which is, again, it's just fun. Like it's like a workout that you might enjoy. It does feel like farming with the mind, this whole micro publishing thing. I was looking specifically for this Hacker News quote that I got. Let's see if I can find it in Obsidian. Hacker News. Is it? No. Okay, I can't find it. Basically, I got like a quote on Hacker News that was talking about the idea of kind of like it's really easy when you start building this second brain personal knowledge management system stuff to kind of just become a person who obsesses over personal knowledge management, right? It's really easy to fall into the kind of infinite black hole of epistemology and never actually use it for anything unique or creative. And it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in like kind of like the cult like ideology a little bit of what happens in the um like not even just the Obsidian space, but like the log seek and the Doom Emacs, or excuse me, the Notion and all of these other kind of like tools and techniques that uh become kind of like comprehensive in a person's life. So I find that like using this technology to actively make something that's random or do something that's like a little bit more fun is actually a probably a better use of not time, use of energy, use of energy of the value that these structures kind of build into our lives. So anyway, that's the recap kind of. I think that I'm probably just gonna go now and start talking about like kind of the books that we're gonna look at, right? So a lot of these are books that I've read over the past couple of years, actually. So it's kind of nice because I've been able to quote unquote reread these books. But in short, what progressive summarization is this ability to read something as a source material or take an event as a source material. And what I mean by an event is that something could literally happen in your daily life and you can kind of capture parts of that where you're like, oh, this person was there, this person was there, this person was there, kind of like a court proceeding when a court's like, oh, what happened? Can you explain to the court what you saw and stuff like that? So this is similar where you have a source material that has more information that you are actually need. You distill down the parts that are important to you. And then of the distilled parts, you continue to distill again, and then you reframe it in your own words. And then the result of that is like a Zettel, right? So, for example, this source material was Kaleidoscope, which is a show that I'm watching on Netflix. And it's about like a heist. And they kind of jump around different time periods and say, like, this is what led up to the heist. And I guess you could watch it in any order, but I don't know if anyone's actually doing that because it's Netflix. So I could put that in, right? So I could say, like, uh, IDK if anyone is actually taking yeah. So for example, just adding my these are my own thoughts, right? And I was like, I don't know if anyone can actually take advantage because in the trailer, I guess for the show that Netflix put out, they were like, oh, you can watch the episodes in any order and piece together different pieces of the puzzle of to why it's happening. But then when you actually watch the show, it's like everyone's just going to start at episode one because 99% of the population that watches Netflix, that's a random number that I'm ass pulling, but most people who are going to be watching it, I would wager, are just going to watch it like any other Netflix show where we're you kind of used to watching everything in just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Netflix auto playing the next episode. Uh, and then also there are characters that get introduced and like their motivations and stuff, and that can cause confusion. But yeah, so this is what I'm going to be kind of like working on today. I'm just going to be adding different thoughts to books that I've read in the past and kind of like using that knowledge to kind of like turn into these independent kind of like Zettels that kind of are like standalone and then link them into a greater graph of kind of like conceptual notions. So we're just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna listen to some music. I'm probably not gonna play the music on the stream because I don't want to get banned or have the whole VOD taken down. Um, but I will be explaining my thought process as I go through for the interesting quotes. So the first book that we're starting with is Explosive Growth, which is a book about marketing, I believe. This date is wrong. This date is when all of the books were uploaded. But this isn't the date that I actually read this book. I think I read this book like 2.5 years ago, or it was back in like 2019, I think. So it's just been sitting here waiting for me to kind of like come back and take a look at it, which is cool. So I guess we could just start with reading the quote out loud, and then I'll decide if I want to keep it or not. So in the end, it's not the things that we did that we regret, it's the things that we didn't do. I mean, pretty basic quote. I agree. It kind of reminds me of the regret minimization framework. So the regret minimization. So an interesting thing about this process of Zettelkasten notes is that if you don't have anything on hand, so like let's say for example that I search regret minimization framework in my Obsidian search, and I see actually I do have a reference to it. So what I'll do is I'll pin this page, so you can see up top there's like a pin right here that says unpin, right? So this is like now the page, the tab is pinned, and then I'll look at the the thing that it found. So it says, whatever you do, don't sell it all at once, blah, 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 blah. It's the regret minimization framework that should uh, employ you on how to sell. So that's pretty relevant, I would say. So let me see, like, let's highlight this, because humans are more loss averse than we are gain conscious, uh, where we would rather hold on to something than lose something, right? So I'll go back here, and this isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was actually looking for it from the whole Jeff Bezos kind of like interview. So usually if I don't want to like get that information just now, I'll leave it as an open to do, and then I'll go and fetch that information later. But then I'll put this in here and bold it. So it's the things that we didn't do. And then maybe I can go back in here and I can search like loss aversion or something. Loss aversion. And we can see here that we got two things from loss aversion. So we have myopic loss aversion, which is like focusing on short-term dangers. And then here we have, what does this say? The best way to overcome loss aversion is to reinterpret the risk of loss as no big deal. Casinos are in the business of overcoming loss aversion. Yada, yada, yada. I don't think that's what I'm looking for. Um, Myopic loss aversion. Maybe like holding on to something. Uh, I think there was a like an idea of here where it's like there was like a quart of milk or something, where it's like people would rather. Oh yeah, here it is. The parable of the quart of milk within your reach, but you're holding a cup in your hand and you're afraid to let go of the quart. So because this is already in a zettel of the biology, epistemology, and local maxima, then I'll just link this one here. So I'll grab this file name here, and then I will like put it in as a actual link here. And then these Zettelkasten are linked together. And actually, I can take it a step further, and I can say the parable of the cup and the quart applies here. So Obsidian allows you to do block linking. So I can just link to this exact block that I was thinking of. So when I click it, it actually highlights the block too, which is super great for this kind of process of work that we're undertaking, right? Um, so yeah, so usually that's pretty good for this one, right? I think that we've kind of like talked about what like this kind of like looks like, and why I think that uh uh like talking a little bit about regret, getting a few examples of regret, as well as kind of talking about loss aversion. So we kind of were able to transition from regret to loss aversion. So um, regret for things not done. So regret for things not done is interesting when loss aversion is taken into account. Since daily life is spent avoiding pain, loss aversion, right? It seems paradoxical that at the end of life, we fear that we haven't done enough. This kind of also relates to the, I wrote one about death. So I'll open my kind of like search thing here and I'll say, fear and death is the root of all anger, and just insert that into this kind of Zettelkasten as well so that people could find it later on the internet, which is pretty cool. So find something that people are doing inefficiently and create a solution that makes it substantially easier to achieve the same result. Does your product accomplish this? I don't have too many thoughts on this. I guess I do in the idea that you want to uh, make software that automates the annoying. It, annoying actually isn't right. The tedium and highlights the um, dopamine and serotonin hits. So what I mean by this is that like I find that like really good software, like when you're using like a good tool or a good piece of software, you just feel like the tedium is kind of removed from what you're looking at. But then it also just like the dopamine and serotonin is just like flowing, right? Where you're like in a world where I'm going to escape this. I don't want this hashtag as a tag. And you just feel like really good about like the work that you're doing because it's just continually brings you back, which is again, like I was saying, like this micro publishing thing seems to fit this bill. So like I would say, like for example, micro publishing, the joys of micro publishing could like fit this bill, right? Where it's like you are able to get dopamine hit, or I'm getting dopamine hits, but the tedium is really automated by software like Obsidian and Obsidian Publish. And now actually I'm going to show you how to remove these. So like usually the thing that I set up with BHOV, which I just again talked about and published, is that I can hit Control X, and then I'm going to be making a video about this that's going on YouTube. But then it pops up with like, what is the title of this settle? So we can talk about the paradox of loss aversion and regret. Usually if I have like an open note in here to do, I'll say that it's not done, and I'll leave it as like a to process. So up here in the tags, I'll put it back into my to process list, and it will show up in my list of things that I still need to finish processing. But you'll notice that the alias and title are lorem ipsum. But when I hit Control S and save, Obsidian Linter, which is a plugin, automatically changes the alias. It automatically changes the title, etc., etc. It gives you the date that it was made and the date that it was modified as well. So you can use this for embeddings and things like that, cool like things like that in the future. And then back in the note itself, I'll link the note that we just created. So the paradox of loss, aversion, and regret. I usually do this at the end of like a book, because then I can just kind of like go up and do them at the same time, one by one, and group them. But I kind of wanted to show off the automated kind of way to create these Zettelkasten. And the nice part about this is that like when you're ready to publish this, you could just hit publish, go to your new here, and it just shows up right there. I have some notes that have changed. Let's see what it changed. Okay, so I added a tag there. I added a block link here. I added oh yeah, some stuff to the note about Kaleidoscope. And then I added the Hunter x Hunter tag because I have a lot of notes that include Hunter x Hunter. And then I just upload them, and then I click this link here. It opens in Chrome, and we can see the changes reflected here. So like here's all my notes that have Hunter x Hunter included in them. So like, anything that's related to that is now pulled up here that anybody can kind of like see and think about. as well as the latest note of the paradox of loss aversion being put up here. And you can also click this block link and it'll actually, again, take you right to it and highlight it. So publish is very powerful. I think, like I said, it's like kind of reminds me of like the days of Tumblr where people were just kind of just posting randomly and just having fun with what they were creating and not thinking too deeply about like kind of like the kind of like business output or whatever, right? Like we kind of entered a world where a lot of influencers have to be more focused on their business appearance than kind of like who they are as people, which I think causes a lot of burnout. And it did in myself too. You know, it's hard to create something on the internet and think like, oh man, this has to serve a very specific business value, or it's not worth anything at all. And I think that there's that kind of 0 to 1 mentality that's kind of become very common and almost encouraged by big social media platforms, right? Because they also have to make money, and if people are just uploading random shit and none of it's actually really relevant, then they actually lose money, right? Like there's a guy on YouTube who has like 2 million videos uploaded to his YouTube channel, and he's just like vibing. I mean, he's not vibing. He's not uploading them personally. He has like a robot that's uploading them, but I'm sure YouTube's actually taking a big loss in storing all of his images and stuff like that. So I get it from the idea of the perspective of the business, where people want to kind of like um make their money back and stuff like that. And there's a lot of creators who have made a lot of money off of these tools, uh, but or this world that we live in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, right? Or it doesn't mean that it's bad either. But it doesn't also necessarily mean that it's right. Is maybe the word that I'm thinking of. So cool. So we just created a Zettel, and now we're just gonna keep going. And not all of these I'll like kind of like comment on. The first two I did apparently have some things to say, but like that's not always the case. So uh, once you've figured out how much startup capital you need, double it, make the unknown known by planning the worst case scenario. You'll discover that the situation is rarely as bad as you initially thought. Do you have a worst case scenario plan? Like example, this one. Like I mean, like I don't really know what to add to that, or if I, like not why I highlighted these things, but I just don't really have anything to say that I think is really that interesting about it. First mover advantage is useless if the timing isn't right. Have you thought about ideas, products, or features that failed in the past simply due to being too early that may work now? What do I think about first mover advantage? I probably have some stuff in my vault about first mover advantage. I can't imagine that I don't. Oh no, I don't. So this is nice because like sometimes I like think like, oh, I probably have something, and then I don't. So when I think about first mover advantage, I kind of think about the Reid Hoffman LinkedIn push, uh, or if I search Reid Hoffman, for example, in Blitz scaling, what did he say? Oh no, he was just the author. I think it's like launch early. Do, 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 do. What's this? No, that's not related. Um, okay, and that wasn't helpful or too helpful. Um, but yeah, I think that this is like the LinkedIn launch early kind of thing. Uh, that's kind of what I was thinking of for that. Hold on, let me see here. Um, yeah, so I'll probably come back to that. Maybe think about adding that thought, and then kind of like saying like, the launch early. But I also don't think that first mover advantage. There's actually an interesting biology thing for first mover advantage that I read in this book called The Beginning of Infinity. So if I search The Beginning of Infinity and then I search biology, apart from the thoughts of people, blah, 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 creating knowledge, blah, blah, blah. Oh, actually, it might be in that note too. Let's look at the local maximum note here. In an evolving species, the dominant strain differs only slightly from the first generation. Nevertheless, scientific discovery is gradual too. I don't know if this is first mover advantage, but it kind of reminds me of like the let's say here that I'll link in the this note here. So I'll grab this. In relation to the explosion of cyanobacteria in Earth's Earth's early ocean. Basically, what I'm thinking here is that like the cyanobacteria in Earth's early ocean were like first movers on biological life, and then they eventually choked themselves out. Um, but the the not necessarily timing, but like they were so successful that they eventually killed themselves by like asphyxiating. So I think that that's interesting in kind of like relationship to first mover advantage is not having about the timing. So usually I'll bold this and then that'll show up as published too or in the published too. But then I also kind of want to like compare these two ideas once I get the exact quote that I need from Reid Hoffman if I can find it. Usually if I can't like find something, I don't really kind of like harp on it because again these don't really have like any particular purpose of existing or not existing. I'll just like literally just get rid of it, right? Like I'll just kind of like either drop the idea or drop the Zettelkasten. It's not a big deal. I've learned it doesn't matter how many times you failed. You only have to be right once. Don't agree. The reason an online dating site needs so many active users to succeed is that if it has 100,000 users spread out equally in the US, the most basic age range, blah, 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 will leave most users with less than 100, blah, 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 blah. When more detailed search criteria like height, body type, and ethnicity get added, the number likely is reduced to just a few. Location 420, that's pretty funny, but not that interesting. Learn how to validate an idea with as little time and financial investment as possible. Do you have a plan to validate your ideas cheaply? This actually kind of relates to this Reid Hoffman one. So usually what I'll do here is that I will, and this was, you could tell this is actually before I built my own SaaS business, Stenography. So yeah, like the kind of like business kind of like, oh, what's it called? Like psycho knowledge where everybody's like, oh, you could just hype yourself up, bro. Just start your business. Just start your business. It's very like 2019 bro speak. Uh this can be uh yeah, so like usually I think it's nice to like write these things down and it's like, it's actually coming from a position where this person obviously published a book, so they put themselves out there publicly to kind of like uh have their ideas kind of attacked uh by themselves and kind of like have their ideas have to stand on their own, right? But it's just like this idea of kind of like learning how to validate an idea with as little time and financial investment as possible is kind of just like it's kind of obvious, right? Like usually there's like no way to kind of uh get enough resources, right? It's like a cart before the horse thing, where a lot of people in Silicon Valley will be like, oh, once I raise in $1 million, I'll be able to hire enough people to do this very obvious successful idea. When in reality, their idea isn't successful and they would know if they just tried it on like a cheaper, almost fictional level, right? This also it's kind of comes off as like a little bit cringe. I don't even mean that. My point was basically just highlighting what I just said, where it's just like um the cart before the horse. Yeah. So the Silicon Valley. This kind of reminds me of that the Shrek thing with like the fake wall that falls over, revealing like a burnt town. I think that was Shrek. It might have been like one of the other kind of like Shrek like movies. Um so yeah, I kind of like whipped into this, and this kind of like these could kind of actually now be two different ideas, because like at first it was like, oh, you wanted a little time to validate your ideas. um have you thought about your ideas that might work now? So actually I do think that these are now separate kind of notions to kind of like be treated separately. So um this also relates to kind of like I've written a lot of notes about how I think VC culture is just stupid. Like I think that I genuinely think that VC culture in totality, right? Like you can pull out independent VCs and be like, oh, this person is good or this person is smart or whatever, whatever, whatever. But the totality of the whole field is just kind of like I don't know. It's just so built on just like groupthink. It's built on just kind of like this kind of conception of like, oh, we're building the future, and just kind of bravado that's like really gross. And I think we got to see a lot of that play out in the crypto space this past year. And I'm really glad that a lot of crypto companies failed for that very reason, is that like I think that a lot of them kind of like really missed the like the lead, where it's just kind of like they're just like, let's just throw money at it and then people are going to want it, instead of just like kind of like realizing that like that like yeah, it's just like filled with like con artists. Like genuinely, like I just don't think that they add a lot of value to the real world, other than just the value that they're attempting to add to themselves with putting money in their own pocket, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like get your money, but like don't don't like construe that the rest of the world cares about what you care about. Um, okay, we already read that. We read that. This is now up there, just fine. Again, no big deal. Few fanatical customer advocates are worth more than blah 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 blah. Fanatical customers will spread word of mouth growth while providing the necessary feedback to iterate on the product. You have at least 20 fanatical users or plan to get them. Um, Again, one of those things is like easier said than done, but generally, yeah, yeah, I do agree with this, where it's like having fanatical advocates are mm, a very powerful asset to grow something. Do you know what your product's aha moment is? And skip. Perfect is the enemy of the shipped. Creating the perfect feature indicates making a lot of assumptions without gathering data, which takes more time. Are you continuing to work on features that are polished enough to put in front of a few customers now and get feedback? I agree with this. I think that, like, there's a reason that I probably favorited it back in 2019. Again, this was before I built my business, so uh, I read this book before. So yeah, this is like the link where it's like people don't know what they want. This is from Henry Ford that I thought this quote was pretty interesting. So I'll link that here. And then I'll also link the mom test, which is another thing. So let's see. Let's open up the mama test and then the measure of usefulness, blah, blah, blah. If you avoid mentioning your idea, uh, yeah. This actually was super useful while I was building stenography. Not this mom test, the whole book, but like this kind of idea of like not asking questions or the right questions, I guess. Uh, and instead being focused on kind of like avoiding mentioning your idea and then kind of just like talking about their life and stuff like that. Because usually it's like the idea is that if you're adding a feature to something that you think that other people will use, you want to create something that um people want, right? But like you have to understand what their problems are before you build something that people want, which kind of ties earlier into the efficiency thing that we were talking about, where it's like generally there's only a few wants that are like universal, and then there's a lot of things that people think that they want, but it's actually you kind of have to dive into the subtext of what they want here. So it's like, for example, uh we don't really want to use social media like YouTube and Twitter. We just like the status or potential route for income that they provide, right? So it's like if you ask someone like how they feel about like the YouTube algorithm kind of like promoting or demoting their videos, they'll be like kind of like feel under the heel of YouTube. They lose a lot of autonomy and uh relatedness, ability to kind of like control their output. But what they really want is again the status that having an online presence can provide, and the potential routes for income too. Or like if you wanted to go to a bar, it's like, oh, I want to go to this new bar that has a $60 cover, which the subtext of that is that I want to go to an exclusive club, and then the subtext of that is I want to be a person who feels wealthy enough to go to a $60 cover club, and then the subtext of that subtext is that I want to signal that I belong in a place by with people like this by dressing up. The subtext of the subtext of the subtext of the subtext is that I want to fit in with people who I want to be around, which the deepest subtext, not deepest, I'm sure you can kind of keep going. It's very Socratic, is that I want to be loved, right? And like, if you can solve this one, then it actually kind of solves partially or in totality the rest of the ones above it too. It's pretty interesting. Um, Talk less and listen more doesn't really work on Twitch stream, huh? You kind of just have to. I'm talking to the void right now, screaming a lot of whole bunch of nonsense. Um, but yeah, I think that like this is, again, like a lot of like this advice is all easier said than done. It's the thing that I want to highlight here, where it's just like, patients will either lie to your face or not know what they want. I'm going to bold that because I think that that's the kind of point that I'm trying to drive. Organic invites, Dropbox user. Hold on, let me see something real quick. No, I guess I can't do that. Annoying. Okay, organic invites. A Dropbox user shares a folder with a colleague. That colleague signs up for Dropbox as a result. Casual contact. A Hotmail user sends an email with the signature "P.S. I love you. Get your free email at Hotmail." The recipient sees that and also signs up for Hotmails, incentivize referrals, and Uber. I got bored reading that. So I don't think I'm gonna use that. Most products are a big missed opportunity if the copy focuses on selling the feature instead of the benefit. Marketing efforts should concentrate on the consumer's question, what's in it for me? Yeah, I like that. Where it's like, the idea is that you're trying to um, build a relationship with the customer and not build a. Uh, and I think I actually just published something on that recently, and I'm trying to remember what I published about it. Uh, but yeah, I like this idea of it. Maybe not enough to make a new Zettel about it, but I would not mind adding it to the current one that exists about it. So I can go into hashtag marketing, um, tag hashtag marketing. Okay, let's see which one includes this. The PKM niche is crowded, specializing, always choose clarity over cleverness, elevator pitches, you don't want what you think you want. I think it's closest to this one. Well, this is more about specializing. I think this is related to this, but I don't know if this is actually the one that I was looking for, but it's fine. If you're not running tests, start now. Yeah, have you provided a target? Well, while your growth strategy can't be an afterthought. If people are complaining about something, that means the product is good enough that they care about it. This is low-key true. This is like one of those things where when people like, it kind of like again ties into that loss aversion thing that we were looking at a little bit earlier. But like all luxuries eventually become obligations for people. Um, which means that they need to kind of like make it work for their life. And it's one of the reasons I like Obsidian so much is that it's such a flexible software that I never feel slowed down by it, if that makes sense. Mm. I can think of like a number of examples of this where people are like, I mean, YouTube is under fire every 2 minutes, and same with like TikTok, same with a lot of software that like a lot of people use every single day. Twitch, right? Like people will kind of like be like, "Oh, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this," but then like still use it every single day. uh, because it is a big enough lift that it is like, not having it in the life is worse than having it in the life and having it suck. So, what's like the underlying theory there, the underlying theme. Um, hmm. I'll think about it. Maybe this isn't because I can talk about examples, but maybe like I'm trying to think of like maybe I could do link to link as a good tag for things that I want to link. So all luxuries become obligations and examples of modern products that I think that makes sense. Read all your customer emails because there's a pot of gold in them if you look closely enough. If you have too many customer emails to review, so someone summarized and did you? Yep, okay. Did you have every employee spend 1 hour with customer service? Okay. Try to hire employees who will use your product. All right. Hold a monthly brainstorm session. Sure. In hindsight, we learned that sample size would affect the model for 6 months. Revenue tests take months to reveal their impact. Reaching conclusions too soon can be damaging. I mean, I agree with that. Receiving for free, they will revolt and cause irrevocable damage with bad reviews. Charge for features that you're currently giving away for free. We would have realized that new and advanced features while leaving the basic service free. Sure. Again, I want to get rid of all of these. I could change these in Visual Studio Code afterwards, and I still might. But like, I could just kind of like do it as I go along here. Did I miss any? No. Okay. Who's this one? A few years too late, my good friend and mentor told me the billionaire rule. Anytime a billionaire wants to work with you, never say no. That seems that seems bad. What if you are working with fucking Epstein? He's like, oh, don't say no to me. Go to my island. Don't be pressured into making any decisions that you're unsure about. Rushing into a port can be catastrophic, whereas missing an opportunity will not be. This is crazy. These two are like in direct conflict. Uh, these two ideas are in direct conflict. LMAO. As well as quite a bit of capitalism, of billionaire bootlicking. Let's call it. Assuming that the billionaire is a good person because they are a billionaire. Leverage is everything. Yeah, I agree with that, but not a deep enough insight, really. What I learned in hindsight is that people are driven by incentives. Huh. Would have been tougher to seal a deal if I took 2 million off the table, sure, but I'm confident that it could have been done. We were in the driver's seat, and nearly every investor we spoke ended up investing, gained momentum. It was, however, blah 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 blah. Don't care. The only way to learn faster. Oh, the only way to win is to learn faster than everyone else. Sure, not really the only way to win. Early stage companies are obsessively focused on growth, usually at the expense of retention. This methodology is backwards because retention should be the North Star metric. If someone builds a great product that people keep coming back to, they can find ways to figure out how to grow it. Um, yeah, yeah. Yes and no. Marketing a product with low net promoter score is essentially saying to a potential customer, "Hey, my product sucks. You should check it out." It's pretty based. I think that these are kind of related. So I'll like usually again like take this and I'll move it back up, which makes sense because these locations are super close, which means that they were probably in like the same ish paragraph, or at the very minimum a few paragraphs apart from each other, or maximum. Do you have a process to actively evaluate new customers, celebrate, iterate, obliterate? Okay. New product, blah blah blah. Initiative. The gist of this book: recreate a startup within my own company. Uh, economic moat, corporate culture, recruiting, ultimate, and that's it. That's the whole fucking thing. So yeah, usually now that like I said, I'll go back from the bottom up and I'll turn these into Zettelkastens. Do I have anything to say about this? I put these two together. So maybe like yeah. Okay, so let's say that retention should be the North Star metric. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think this is like kind of like a this actually ironically, this is one of the core tactics. This is kind of like Cal Newport's digital. I might actually just be able to find that. Let's see, digital. No. Cal New. Um, didn't I read that book? Weird. You know, I do remember the name of the thing that I'm looking for. It's the any benefit. Is that in here? No. Any benefit technology. Retain to stoke the flames or to keep it burning. Oh, that's interesting. No, I still need the two process in here because I could kind of like, yeah, no, that just it. Then back here, I'll link that in here. To stoke the flames versus burning low and slow. This part's the nice part, right? Because this is the part that I like get ready to like publish, right? So this is the part where it's like you almost get to see the immediate short feedback loop of the harvesting of the work that was just done there. And a lot of that didn't really feel like work, right? Like I'm not saying that these are like 30-minute YouTube video essay documentaries, nor are they like New York Times bestselling authors works. But the idea is that like you can kind of almost think of it as like this conversation being moved forward just a little bit, right? Each time it's like moving a chess piece. And that's kind of what this is doing. The billionaire rule. And then it also feels like gaming, but like healthy. Whereas like, you know, in the gaming world, the idea is that like you kind of just like grind and grind and grind, and then you get a level and you get the dopamine hit of like getting a new like fucking piece of gear. And I know because I've done this countless times as a World of Warcraft uh, addict for a while in my life, and it's like that, or but like actually you get to keep the gains. How about I put it like that? Like, yeah, you can gain in World of Warcraft, right? Because it's still a thing that you're putting effort into and getting new gear. But then every 2 months they obliterate everyone's gear score because they have to release a new raid to keep people paying and keep people interested. Whereas like with this, it's kind of like, oh, I can read countless books and countless blogs and countless articles, and I can link them together and form this overall knowledge network that becomes more valuable as I invest more time and energy into it. Pretty interesting. Uh, Funnily enough, I think I recently was in this situation where I was like kind of pressured into doing something and I probably should have said no. And now I'm kicking myself about it because now I have to still tell them no. But it's like I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. And a lot of it has to do with kind of like trusting people and timing and things like that. But I know eventually in the next soon I'm going to like leave the thing that I told people that I was going to be doing. So whatever. Um so I'm just gonna call this note billionaire bootlicking because I think it's pretty funny. So billionaire bootlicking. This would probably go under the category of like weirdly religion, and I also think like capitalism, obviously. Tag. Not that capitalism is gonna really show up in my website tags, but you know, just for me. Uh, and then I'll link that here for billionaire bootlicking. I think Hassan would appreciate that. So like, let me say like, I think I got this from Hassan. Did I put any? I think this is like entrepreneurship, um, marketing, and then Alt Shift F, and then I can put another to link here for um, VC culture. So true, dude. VCs fucking congratulate them. I hate VCs. Okay, yeah. So this one, and then where was it? So actually, I don't need to do that. I can just do this, and then this, and then this, and then VC. Because you are VCs, degenerate gamblers. And then I'm just going to put VC culture as a new tag because actually it's been coming up a lot in my notes. A match. Um, keep going up here. Look for the next one that I did here, which is right here. If people are complaining about something, that means they care about it. I actually think I have. This is one of my favorite quotes, by the way. One of history's few iron laws is that luxuries become necessities and spawn new obligations. I've just seen this so much over the past couple years, and like in my own life and in the life of others and stuff like that. It's like, crazy. Um. All right. I think also at the time when I had favorited this quote, I was like kind of mad at like someone who I had worked for in the past and kind of like their um not even perfectionism, because it wasn't like we were putting out perfect stuff, but the just like really high expectational demands over just really stupid shit. And like it just felt really kind of like, I don't even know, like a waste of energy is maybe the wrong term, but like it just felt like it was just intent to it was meant to incense the people who worked for them. Um yeah, perfect is the enemy of shipped. Customer conversations. Customer conversations for an iterative product. It's entrepreneurship. And is there any? Nope. No to process in here. Usually, like I said, I'll try and link the other books that I used in the quotes here too, but sometimes I just get bored. You know, I don't know. Probably not worth doing. But I try to like link all of the ones. I am thinking of an idea where I can kind of just like automatically look at all the links and just kind of link them back to their parent book, but I don't know how often I'll really be using such a thing. So it might just actually be worth not building, right? um so oh dude, I hate this song. I don't even know why it's playing. What is going on right now? Nice. Yeah, it's more VC culture. Uh, this is from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Validating your idea without really trying. Little, this can come off as very tech bro speak, where the idea is more about the hype than actually delivering. Yeah. Silicon Valley cart before the horse is that raising money will propel any bad idea to a working state by just hiring more, more people, getting a nice office. This is brittle and wholly untrue, or at least a facade of integrated growth um, that gets whitewashed into a catalyst argument where people are like, "Oh, I need this much money to make my thing a thing," and it's like you literally don't have the machines to make the thing a thing. Like if you're building a rocket ship to go to the moon, yeah, of course you're gonna need a lot of money and a lot of scientists and stuff like that. Um, but especially in the era of kind of like open source, as well as kind of just like, most ideas are stupid, right? Like getting to the moon is like, how about I put it this way? There's a lot of physics in the way of getting to the moon that is just very real problems that people need to solve one at a time. How do we keep our astronauts from dying in space without oxygen? How do we get the rocket ship back? How much fuel do we need? Blah, 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 blah. The presence of certain apps that have raised a bunch of money, like selling your car online, like Carvana, are based around this idea that people want to sell their cars online in the first place. And like that someone will come and pick it up. And like, of course, people like convenience, but it's not like a physical problem that you're overcoming to get to a very static goal of arriving at the moon and flying back. So, you know, One thing is not like the other. Let's see. This is definitely in the VC culture bucket, which I've just overall just kind of like started just shitting on. Uh, and to process, right? Because I still need to do the Shrek wall thing, or at least find that, and I'll probably find that like again off stream. And this same one thing here, where it's kind of like the cyanobacteria first mover advantage, is pretty funny. Cyanobacteria first mover advantage. This is to process and biology and entrepreneurship. Pog. And then do that here. And that was all I got for this book. So then I removed the... Oh, my mouse just froze. Okay. The process from this note. And that book is now processed. So now when I go back to my Readwise, it automatically removes itself. And you can see here, there's like... It's interesting because like sometimes I read business books, sometimes I read like fiction, sometimes I read kind of like science-y kind of like books and stuff like that. You can almost tell as time has gone on, like kind of like how the books that I've read have started to get harder, and I've had less patience for books that are like more poorly written. And I think that's just like a really fun growth process, to be honest. Um, I think I was really lucky though, because there was a few books that I read pretty early on in the era where I started reading books in 2018 that like really kind of put me on the right track to continue to keep reading. So now it's like, these notes are changed. So it's just like, I've like have the, these things, these checkbox uses aren't so huge. I guess they use the same font size. So I don't know what they were thinking with that. Um, but here's all the new notes that we wrote. So we can just click all these. Feels great. Dude, it honestly feels so good to just like hit this button, watch them all get published, go to your website, the Zettelkasten, which I'll switch over to, and then just kind of like have it all be there where you could just kind of like see it in uh the internet, right? Where it's like other people live on the internet too, which is like kind of nice. Billionaire bootlicking. Um Yeah, but I think that I'm probably gonna stop streaming for now. I think I've been live for like an hour or so, maybe a bit longer, a bit shorter. How long have I been live? How do I? Oh yeah, 1 hour and 14 minutes. So I might be back later. I might not. But I'm gonna be doing more of this stuff, and should be a lot of fun. I have some ideas for kind of like I think I'm gonna like mainly go live and do this stuff. Oh, I forgot one. Uh, software, dopamine software, dopamine driven software development. This isn't really a programming thing, but like it's like entrepreneurship, I guess. Like the idea of coming up with an idea for that kind of like uh yeah, and publish that as well. So easy. Link it here. Um, how long is this one? Yeah, no, this is I don't want to do this right now. This one seems a little bit more spiritually focused, which is kind of interesting. But like I said, for now I kind of want to just log, maybe go on a walk before it gets too dark. Um, if anyone showed up, thank you for watching. Uh, I'm glad to be back online and kind of like adding this to my repertoire of kind of like what I'm working on with my core thing now, which is this Zettel kind of thing. It's progressive summarization. And like I said, I'm gonna do this hopefully most days. And then have like a few videos a week, maybe one about what's going on in the tech world, and then maybe another about the favorites of the week. And that's kind of going to be like a newsletter, Marketing Monday, deep dive, looking for thematic, interesting things and stuff like that. So, anyway, that's all I got for today. Like I said, I might be back on later for a little bit if I do feel inspired to process another book or some blogs or some tweets or stuff like that. Um, but I also might just be live tomorrow or something like that too. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Sevens. Adios. Bye.